Imagine sitting in a prison cell for 7 years. Now imagine discovering that 24 pieces of evidence proving your innocence were left out of your final judgment. When you ask the court why, they tell you a printer made a mistake. That is exactly what happened to Amadeu Oliveira. He is a defense lawyer and an elected official in Cabo Verde, and based on that ruling, he has been locked in a cell for over 5 years. His defense team has been asking the court to put that missing information back into the record for more than 2.5 years. No correction has ever been made. Most of us would look at that and immediately call it unfair, but international law has a much sharper, stricter name for what happens when a government locks someone up and can no longer explain why. It is called arbitrary detention, and it comes with a specific rule. An imprisonment can follow every single letter of a country's own local laws and still violate basic global human rights. To figure out if a detention crosses that line, the United Nations uses a team of 5 independent legal experts. They are called the Working Group on Arbitrary Detention. Their job is to look past local rulebooks to see if a detention is just. Now, we are not a court, and we do not have the government's official reply to these claims. Only those UN experts can make a final legal decision here. But what we can do is use their exact 5-part checklist. Together, we can take that objective framework and apply it straight to the public documents in Amadeu's case. Test 1 looks for a legal basis. It asks a simple question. Can the government legally justify the exact timeline and scope of why they are holding this person? The public record shows Amadeu was arrested at the airport on July 18th, but the parliamentary document authorizing his arrest was not actually published into law until the following day. Because of flaws in that paperwork, his lawyers argue he is technically still in temporary preventative detention. If that is true, he has been locked up for years past the strict legal time limit for that status. Test 2 asks if someone is being punished for using a basic right. This test looks under the criminal label to see if a person was actually jailed for doing their job or speaking their mind. A massive part of this case revolves around Amadeu publicly criticizing the courts for corruption and doing his normal job as a court-appointed defense lawyer. The paperwork here contradicts itself. He was put in prison based on the claim that he was acting as a politician. Yet, while he sat in his cell, the court system sent him a fee notice, billing him as the defense lawyer for that exact same case. That brings us to Test 3, checking for a seriously unfair trial. This asks if the justice system itself was so compromised that sending someone to prison becomes an arbitrary act. This diagram shows the 145 findings of fact originally established in his trial. As we mentioned earlier, 24 of these findings vanished from the final ruling. According to his defense, those missing facts are exactly the evidence showing he was doing his job as a lawyer, which was the entire point of the trial. On top of that, the structure of the trial itself was a closed loop. The person who filed the original complaint was the president of the Supreme Court of Justice. That same court then delivered the final judgment, and by law, appeals about unlawful detention go right back to that same office. At the same time, his ability to defend himself was taken apart. All of his bank accounts were frozen, and the laptop holding all of his legal defense documents was seized inside the prison. When you have a trial built on missing evidence and structural bias, the UN framework views the resulting prison sentence as seriously unfair, no matter how many official stamps are on the paperwork. Test 4 is about immigration detention. We can skip this one completely. Amadeu is a citizen held in his own country under criminal law. Encouraging a step here is a good thing. It proves that the UN checklist is an objective diagnostic tool, not a rigged scoreboard where every single box has to be checked. Finally, Test 5 looks for discrimination. It asks if the true purpose of the detention is to erase a person from public life because of their political opinions. The penalties in this case go far past the prison gate. Along with his 7-year sentence, Amadeu was stripped of his opposition party seat in parliament and banned from holding any elected office for 4 years after his release. Add it all up, and the result is clear. This detention removes a vocal critic from the country's democratic process for 11 years. What this case shows is that a government can perfectly execute its own administrative procedures while completely violating human rights. Something can be strictly legal under local rules and still be wrong. Again, we are only reading the public record. We cannot give a final verdict. Only the UN Working Group has the authority to officially declare this an arbitrary detention. But this is exactly why international law exists in the first place. It provides an outside light when a legal system uses its own rulebook to hide an injustice in plain sight. The government's refusal to respond relies on a specific thing. It needs the public to look away and just accept excuses like printer errors. But public scrutiny actually works. In July of 2026, close to 500 citizens signed a public petition. That pressure forced the President of the Republic to act, and now a crucial question about the legality of this detention is sitting right in front of the country's constitutional court. Cases like this do not end just because the defense has strong facts on their side. They end when enough everyday people decide they are not going to ignore the missing evidence. You can help keep that light on. Read the case file for yourself. Learn the facts. And then take just a moment to send this video to one other person today.